Alright, so today we are going to do the basic rudiments of music. Music standard notation is written on what's known as a grand staff. Okay, so music is written on a staff consisting of 5 lines and 4 spaces, and the lines are numbered as below here. So you have the first line, you have the second line, there's the third line, the fourth line, and the fifth line. And then there are 4 spaces in between the lines. So this is the first space, the second space, the third space, and the fourth space. Now these lines and spaces signify something. They signify the letters of the musical alphabet. Alright, so the lines are named as follows. So the first line corresponds to, I'm just going to focus there. The first line corresponds to an E. It's an E note. The second line is a G note. The third line is a B note. The fourth line is a D. And the fifth line is an F. And the letter names on the spaces are: the first space corresponds to F. The second space corresponds to A. The third space corresponds to C, and the fourth space corresponds to E. Now, I know it might be a daunting task to remember the note names on every line and every space, but in this book, the Mel-based guitar method book, they've kind of broken it down and they've made it easy to remember the notes on every line and space. So the first line is an E, and that can correspond to the word every. The second line is a G, which is good. The third line is a B, which can correspond to the word boy. The fourth line, D, can correspond to the word does. And the fifth line, F, corresponds to the word fine. So an easy way of remembering the notes on the lines are: every good boy does fine. Okay, let me just say it again. Every good boy does fine. Now let's learn the notes on the spaces. It's very easy to remember the notes on the spaces. It just literally spells out the word face. So the first space is an F, the second space is an A, the third space is a C, and the fourth space is an E. So they literally spell out the word face. The musical alphabet has 7 letters, that is A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Okay. The staff is divided into measures by vertical lines called bars. Now, when we write a language, we don't write everything running, we don't write all the sentences running here and there without any punctuation marks, without any commas, or without any full stops. Otherwise, we won't know where to stop, and we won't be able to read sentences properly. So the punctuation marks actually provide for easier readability, and they tell you where to pause and all of that. Now, of course, the bar and the measures in music correspond to those punctuation marks. So every bar has a certain piece of musical information written within it, and that will correspond to the time signature, which I'll get to later. So every bar will have certain amount of musical information written within it, and the bar line tells you that this is the finite amount of information that can be written within this bar, and we have to move on to the next bar. So this is kind of like the bar line in linguistic terms, in the form of language, we can call it a full stop. So we can read the first piece of musical information in the bar as a sentence, as a phrase, and then encounter this full stop, which is the bar line, and then move on to the next sentence, and so on and so forth. The double bars mark the end of a section or a strain of music. So you see there's like this double bar here. So there's a single line which is faint, and then there's a dark line. This signifies the end of a section of a piece of music. Now we have to learn what's the meaning of this clef. This sign is known as the treble clef or the G clef. So it's known as the treble clef or the G clef, and basically what does it actually signify? It actually signifies that the guitar, I'm sorry about that, different instruments have different frequency ranges, right? They have different registers in which they play, and the guitar is a fairly mid-range to a slightly higher range instrument, which is why it is written in the treble clef. Now there is a bass clef as well, and there are many instruments like the electric bass, the double bass, the upright bass, the cello, the tuba, which are slightly lower frequency instruments, and they play in the lower register, and hence all the music that's written for those instruments is written in the bass clef. But since we are dealing with the guitar here, all of the guitar music is written in treble clef. Now the second line of the treble clef is known as the G line. Alright, so you see this curve here. The treble clef literally curls at the G line. Many people call the treble clef the G clef because it circles around this line. So I have a piece of manuscript paper, I have a piece of blank paper actually, I'm sorry about that. There's a piece of blank paper here. Now how do I trace the treble clef? I'm just going to be writing it here. I'm holding the phone with one hand and I'm writing with the other, so please pardon me with that. So treble clef, just make a practice of drawing the treble clef, just do a few repetitions of drawing the treble clef. Do about 10-15 of those every day, and I think you will be able to draw the treble clef pretty easily. So you just take this way, start off with this curled line, and then just trace it this way and make this loop here and make this line pass through and through, and this. I'm going to do another one. Start off with this way and loop it, and there you go. So do about 10-15 of those. It might take you about 15-20 minutes of practicing this to be able to draw it properly, and if you want to write music in the treble clef. So that's the fundamentals of the treble clef, and I hope to see you guys in the next lesson.